Hello and welcome back everyone. Now today's video is an edited segment from a Tiny Table Talk livestream that was streamed this past Saturday, August 10th on patreon.com/angelcakevids. I do these Table Talk live streams weekly, and this past week's live stream was really fun. We went over some podcast notes, talked about the launch special. We were even able to do a house tour of the Challenge 40 house after I did some pretty impressive detective skills to find the Challenge 40 house. I should say house, it's not technically a house, as well as it has the full segment and breakdown that you will be seeing an abridged version of very soon. If you would like access to this past Saturday's live stream, as well as be a part of future Tiny Table Talk live streams, on top of getting even more exclusive content, please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/angelcakevids. There's a link in the description below, as well as if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section. But for now, let's go on to the video. We're just gonna get into it. Here are all the players and how they rank in their daily win percentage. So as you can see, Paulie is number one. Paulie is actually the one player that has a positive daily win percentage. He has like 54% win percentage. And then all the way down to Ryan, he does not have a good daily win percentage. This could be a little bit skewed, the older players, because the older players, you could say, had a lot of team seasons, to having some of the older players up in the top 10s with like Mark, Jody, Katie, Bananas, Rachel, Darrell, and Brad. Inversely, you have all the newer players, or most of the newer players, over in the bottom 10. I mean, you got Horacio, Olivia, Nerese, Avery is somewhat new-ish, Naya, playing around the time that the challenge was skewing away from team challenges to being more pairs and solo challenges. So yeah, daily win percentage. So I thought that was very interesting. So these are the rankings of the 40 players when it comes to daily win percentage. Here is the elimination win percentages, which can be even more interesting. As you saw, Aviv was in the bottom 10 daily win percentage. Here she is in the top 1 and 2 for elimination win percentage. Her and Emily are tied at 100%. They've never been eliminated from a season. Number 3 is Horacio, who has like an 85 elimination win percentage. Theo has an 80% win percentage. Casey, Laurel, 32 through 34. You have Jody, John A, and Rachel, which is around 40-something%. So not too crazy of a difference when you have 32 and 34 is around 40-something%. I think Bananas is around 48% at 29. But then you have 35 and 36. Brandon and Ryan, they're in like the 30s. Katie is 33% elimination win percentage. Amanda is 25%. Derek is 20%. And Josh is at the bottom of the barrel at 16-point-something%. So it's almost like if you look at the daily win percentage and you have like Paulie, Mark, Jody, Katie, and Laurel, Derek, and Bananas all at the top and everything, and then you kind of like skew over and you see Katie in the bottom, and Derek is also here, and Rachel's in the 32 through 34. So Bananas is at 29. So it's almost like it just inverses itself with elimination win and daily win percentage. But then again, if you're winning a ton of daily challenges, you're not seeing too many eliminations, you know. Some players you can see here are kind of floating around the mid to the bottom era. I mean, you got Ryan at 40 here, but then you have Ryan at the bottom at 35 and 36 ranking as well. I think this just puts into perspective of like how likely could they, or how has their production been on the challenge when they were playing on the challenge for their daily win percentage, you know? And it's like, oh, it's pretty decent, you know? And I also think that this daily win percentage kind of shows like the players up at the top, yeah, they could have been in team challenges, but I feel like this is going to be a team challenge at least to start the season. You could even look at this and say like, okay, well, Mark, Jody, Katie, Derek, Bananas, Rachel, Darrell, Brad, they've all had the opportunity to play team challenges in the past. And they've had success winning daily challenges in teams. They've had that experience, CT as well. You kind of see that, okay, there's a difference in players and how high up they are in this. and those players probably haven't had a chance of playing in teams that much. Elimination win percentage, I feel, holds more water in my opinion, because this is how likely are the players going to be able to get themselves out of a sticky situation if sent into elimination. So it's not looking great for Josh, Derek, Amanda, Katie, Brandon, and Ryan. If they're not having a good social game or winning daily challenges, they could be in the line of fire of getting into eliminations and possibly being sent home. But I thought this was very interesting how everybody stacks up with daily win percentages and elimination win percentages. What players have won against whom from this season in eliminations prior? Because we just had all the elimination win percentage, but who on this season has won against other people who are also on this season? Granted, some of these elimination wins came very early on in their challenge careers. Some of these are fairly recent. I did era by era. Brad has won against CT in the duel. Derek and Mark, both in All-Stars, I believe. CT has won against Nehemiah in Rivals, where he was partnered up with Evan. Nehemiah was. Leroy, Free Agent, Darrell, Bananas, and Josh. Darrell has won against a lot of people with Derek, Bananas, Devin, Brad and Jody, and Kellyanne. Derek, Brad, Brandon, and Bananas. And Mark has won against Katie, asterisk, because technically Mark was paired up with Kendall, and Kendall was going head-to-head with Katie, and Mark was going head-to-head with Latyrian. And so technically he beat Katie because that's on his resume, but he wasn't going directly against Katie. Then he also won against Jordan, which was fairly recent. You have Anissa winning against Jonna, Tori, Laurel, and Casey. Jody won against Naya in the World Champs. Katie and Rachel have not won an elimination against anybody who's on this season, and Tina has won against Katie. Bananas over here has won quite a few eliminations, has won against CT, Mark, Jordan, Avery, John A, Anissa, and Pauly. Brandon has only won against Derek. Derek has not won against anybody on this cast, neither has Ryan, and Nehemiah has won against Derek, Ryan, and Derek. Somebody else who was won against Derek was Aviv in Fresh Meat against the Exile. It was like the last Exile right before the final. Her and Darrell were able to win against Derek and DM. Cara Maria has won against John A, Naya, Bananas, Anissa, and Rachel. Emily has won against Leroy. Emily won against Cara in Battle of the X's as well. We're going into Era 3. Corey has won against Amanda, and that was in Final Reckoning. Corey has also won against Darrell from Season 36. Devin has won against Bananas and Amanda. And then you have Jordan's huge resume of being able to win against Leroy, Johnny, Theo, Darrell, Laurel, Casey, and Bananas. You have Leroy, who is able to win against Bananas, technically Avery, Brad, and Brandon. And then Tony, I said won against Darrell. It was a redemption game against Darrell. Remember in Dirty 30 where they had to had that floating, that swaying pendulum in the redemption game, and the last part of the redemption game was Tony versus Darrell, and whoever's foot hit first, and Darrell was eliminated from the season. So I put Darrell in there that he did win against Darrell. Even though that wasn't necessarily and then you have Era 3 women, where Amanda, John A, and Avery have not won an elimination against anybody on the cast. And then you have Naya, who won against Bananas. That was the log roll. That was the log elimination in X's 2. Then you have her winning against Avery in Battle of the X2 with the hookup. And then Tori has won against Jenny, Amanda, and John A. Horacio won against Michelle and Jordan. Josh hasn't won against anybody. Darrell, Brad for Kyland, which was very recent in Season 39. Then you have Pauly with Bananas, winning against Bananas, Tony, and Brad. Theo won against Bananas. And here for the Era 4 women, you have Jenny has not won against anybody on this cast. Michelle has won against Cara. Olivia won against Michelle. Nerese has the best resume here, winning against Horacio, Kyland, and Olivia. She's been able to take out everybody in her own era, while Casey has been able to win against Darrell and Jody in the World Championship. Now, I went through and swapped around. This is just the inverse of everything that I just went over. Who did they lose against? As you can see, Darrell has lost against quite a few people. Because I think this puts into perspective, like, how many times has somebody lost to other people on this cast? And as you can see, it just seems like Darrell and Brad have lost against quite a few people. I've also thought it was interesting that CT and Mark have lost against the same two people, Bananas and Brad. What I found interesting here is that Tina hasn't lost against anybody on this cast. She has not lost against a single person. For looking at how good Bananas' win looked, he has so many losses to people on this season. He has lost to CT, Cara, Jordan, Darrell, Derek, Devin, Paulie, and Theo. Well, that's what happens when you're doing like 20 plus seasons too. 20 plus seasons, you're going to lose a couple of eliminations. It's just a lot of people on this season, Aviv hasn't lost. Emily hasn't lost. Kellyanne has only lost to Darrell. Cara's kryptonite is in her own era with Emily and Laurel. Laurel has lost to Jordan and Anissa. This Jordan and Anissa was in season 38, so that elimination was pretty recent. Corey has not lost to anybody in this cast, but Devin has lost to Darrell. Jordan has lost to Bananas, Mark, and Horacio. Both that Mark and Horacio is fairly recent. Leroy has lost to Emily, Jordan, and CT, and Tony has lost to Paulie. Amanda has lost to Kellyanne, Corey, Devin, and Tori. Avery, Nia, and Bananas. John A. has lost to Cara, Laurel, both from Rivals, Anissa from Free Agents, Jordan, Bananas, and Tori. Tori is from USA 2, so that one's very recent as well. Tori has only lost to her best friend Anissa. Era 4, not a lot of losses. Nerys has not lost to anybody on this season. As we can see, Anissa, Jordan, which was both season 38 for Casey. So those are all, so that puts in perspective how many times people have lost on a season with all these other players. This is my pride and joy here. Here is what I deem the social structure of the house. How I set this up. The bigger players, which are CT, Cara Maria, Tori, and Bananas, Jordan, and Devin, those are the players that are going to have the most social capital. So I made them the biggest. And because CT doesn't really have any rivals at this point and he only has friends, I put him directly into the middle. So with him being directly in the middle, Rachel and Derek, I also feel are going to be playing the middle as well, because they're going to have friends on both sides. Cara has the right-hand side. And as you can see, a lot of congestion, I feel like a weather person now. A lot of congestion is over on the left-hand side, my left-hand side, I guess. Left-hand side, where Tori, Jordan, Devin, and Bananas are all kind of clustered together. Devin is actually in a perfect spot because he is tied with second Dave, Tori, but Devin has also gotten really close with CT back in season 36 and season 37. They were very close with each other. So CT and Devin have gotten really close with each other, but Devin's also very close with Josh and Bananas, who Josh is also very close with Bananas as well. But as you can tell, Tori is kind of all close together. I tried to have people touch if they are definitively with one another. So that's why I have Paulie touching Cara, because they're going to be ride or dies. Basically, Tori is going to be ride or dies with Jordan and Devin, as well as Bananas is up there, and he's got his own little bunch. I call him the Banana Bunch. Mark is closer with Bananas on his side, because you just know Tony is kind of floating in the middle between Derek and CT and Bananas, kind of in that center. The social structure of the house is too complicated to put so many people as close together. With Rachel down at the bottom, she's directly in the middle because her and Tori are very close with each other. Her, Tori, and Josh work out with each other in Miami with Rachel's workout program in her gym. But Rachel's going to be very close with Darrell and Cara as well. So she's going to be very much close in the middle. But here's the thing, Rachel and Derek are also very close with Derek, who I put at the very top because I feel like Derek is going to be playing the middle, closer with Bananas, also on Cara and Paulie's side. And then he's not as super close with Tori, and you have the dumbbells. So you have Jordan and Tori both have done a workout video with Rachel. So did Nia. So did Kyland. So did Mark, Brad, and Derek. So they all have had like a workout program. Now, as you could probably guess, the star with the 4 in it is all the players that have been featured on All-Stars 4. Now, a lot of the players that have been on All-Stars 4 haven't really played with the other All-Stars players recently. So that's why I just left All-Stars 4 by itself. And then All-Stars 1 through 3, a lot of the players have played with each other. Like Nehemiah was on, I think, 1, 2, and 3, I believe. Mark was on like 1 and 3. Darrell has been on like 1 through 3. So a lot of the players, John A has been on All-Stars 1 through 3. So a lot of those players who have just been on All-Stars 1 through 3 have played with each other at some point in that 3 seasons. And then All-Stars 4 is kind of like its own All-Stars thing. So that's why there's 1 star with a 4 in it to signify All-Stars 4. And then you have stars with just AS in it, which is All-Stars. So you can kind of see who's kind of played with where and whom. The globe is for the World Championship if those players have been featured with each other on the World Championship. The flag, the American flag with the 2 in it, of course, is USA 2. Kind of get an idea of where everything is. As you could probably tell, the players closer in the middle are more connected, where the far ending like corners are kind of like players you kind of don't know where they could go. Horacio is pretty close with Laurel and Jordan, so that's why Horacio is over here. Kylan and Nerys are kind of like question marks to me. I don't know where they could stand. I don't know where they could lie. But a lot of the Era 4 players are over on this area, so I just decided to put them far on the left-hand side and kind of out of the way. I think I heard from All-Stars 3, Nehemiah, Nia, and Jordan got pretty close with each other. So I'm going to expect that Nehemiah stays with Jordan and Nia. I don't know. Some of this stuff could be wrong. And then Amanda, I wanted to put her as far away from Tori as possible. And because Rachel and Tina seem to be really close or really like Amanda, and then also Amanda was making amends with Cara, I put her in the corner, but in the middle of both Rachel, Tina, and Cara. So that way it's all kind of like all together. Again, like I said, Rachel is going to be close with Derek and Brad and Mark. Like Rachel is very close with Mark. You know, I totally understand that, but also Rachel, I don't think is going to be close with Bananas. Or at least that's what their relationship has been over the course of their entire season, their entire history. Again, this is all going to be like all over the place a bit. So there is some intricacies here. I felt like I needed to put Rachel closer to Tori and Cara, because that's where like her main like hangout is probably going to be, in between those two and specifically. But of course, a lot of these players are also going to be friends with like Derek and Mark and stuff. So I know like Darrell's also very close with Derek as well. So it's not perfect for sure. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it was difficult to like put everything together, because I don't think Darrell is the bestest of friends with Johnny Bananas. So I just put him in the middle of Rachel and Cara, and then it's also on the same side with Derek. But there's always going to be those things that it's not going to be absolutely perfect to where everybody just fully lines up with everybody, because some people's best friends are going to have enemies right next to it. So I felt like what's important is social capital. You got to win eliminations if you get thrown in. You got to know how to win daily challenges, especially in a team format. You got to have social capital, but also what have you done lately? I think also plays into a major factor, because if you go into a season and you haven't been to a final recently, or you haven't made, it's going to be that much more difficult to visualize you getting deep within another season. When was the last time everybody has made a final? I mean, you have like Anissa, Darrell, Derek, Brad, and Mark. Just wanting to throw this out there. The differences in the All-Stars logos make a difference. So Derek's All-Star is 1. All-Stars 1. Darrell is All-Stars 2. And Mark's green one is All-Stars 3. The black and white logo we will see coming up is All-Stars 4, obviously. But as you can tell, Anissa, 38. Jody hasn't made a final since the duel, but she was close in All-Stars 2. Katie hasn't made a final since Gauntlet 2. Rachel hasn't made a final since the Duel 2. And Tina hasn't made a final since Fresh Meat Season 12. But like, what have you done for me lately kind of vibe? Because then it kind of shows you how well they have adapted to a modern era of the challenge. Have they been able to make a final or have enough social capital to make a final with the players who are on the seasons lately kind of vibe? So I don't know. Some of this doesn't hold as much water, but I just think it's pretty interesting. I mean, you have Fresh Meat for Aviv, Cara and Laurel and Derek's are All-Stars 4, All-Stars 3 for Kellyanne and Nehemiah. Brandon hasn't made a final, and then Bananas USA 2. Corey, who had an incredible social game in USA 2. Devin with Ride or Dies, Season 38. Leroy with All-Stars 4. Tony Vendettas, Tori USA 2. Jordan was World Championships. And then here's Era 4, which of course is going to have some of the more recent finals being made since they've played between 31 and 39. But you got Total Madness, Ride or Dies, World Championship, 39, 38, World Championship, and Season 34. Of course, this is the era with the most people who haven't made a final. I picked out a man and a woman from each era who I am worried about. Quote unquote worried about. Some of these people I don't worry about at all because who cares? But I'm worried about in the sense of looking back over the official trailer, looking back over the super trailer, and the launch special. Some of these players you don't see. I'm worried more for Brad, and his performance hasn't been top level in recent seasons. Then you got Jody, who I realized through the launch special and the super trailer, looking and watching those over and over again, I found out we don't see Jody like at all. Like she didn't get any speaking points. She barely got shown at all in the launch special. Kellyanne and Brandon, kind of the same thing I said with Jody, and I kind of mentioned this in the super trailer breakdown if you watched it. Brandon's not shown anywhere except for in the very beginning, it feels like. So I worry about Brandon. Same thing with Kellyanne, not too much footage I've seen of her. I don't see too much of Leroy. Amanda, I'm worried from a social standpoint. As you saw from my alliance chart, she's kind of off on her own. If Tori is really against you in your Era 3, I feel like Tori has too much pull. She has Jordan, she has John A, who also has pull to where I don't think Amanda has that many friends in her Era 3 team. So if it comes down to a vote on sending in a man and a woman, Amanda is, I think, going to be the first person kind of like thrown to the wolves. Casey and Paulie, just from trailers and super trailers, you don't see a whole lot of either one of them. So I just feel like these 8 I'm worried about. And if the first episode, apparently there's going to be like half the teams are going to be going into elimination against each other, these are the players that I'd worry about going into the first purge or the first eliminations. Dark horses or wild cards, I try to pick one person from each era to keep our eyes on. At first, I was worried about Katie, and she's not in a ton of the promo stuff, but she did have that really funny moment with Horacio where she's like, I could be your mother. And then CT had that really nice Instagram post about him and Katie and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just keep an eye on Katie. Aviv is just the complete wild card. Look at those biceps. Even though she doesn't have that much social capital coming into this game or as many connections, I feel like she could be looked at as like somewhat of a wild card, and I think she's going to be able to come in and actually compete. Okay, so Nehemiah is actually very interesting. Nehemiah and Naya are kind of like, I have the same reasoning why I picked them to be wild cards and to keep our eyes on them, because they both had some pretty decent talking points in episode 0. Not too much of them in the super trailers or the official trailers, but we had that really nice moment between Naya and Laurel where Nia was able to talk about her struggles with vaping, and we just had that really nice, like, that emotional beat with her. Like, the show wants us to buy in with Nia. So to me, I'm like, okay, they want us to buy in to Nia, and I don't feel like they would do that if she were, like, shipped home in the first, like, 2 episodes. So to me, I'm like, okay, cool. There's something with Nia going on this season. So Nehemiah legit got way more confessionals than I thought he would. Nehemiah is someone who, if you watch back, he does not have a ton of talking points. He wasn't like a central figure in any one season, except for like All-Stars 2. They've used him as background or a sidekick to Wes, or he had this rivalry with Derek, but Derek was always getting further than Nehemiah was for majority of the time, until season 15, of course, where Nehemiah and his rookie team were able to win. But on the All-Star season, it just feels like Nehemiah was gaining so much traction, and then he had a couple of confessionals on this launch special where, as I mentioned, Jody didn't have any, Brandon didn't have any. There was a couple of people that just kind of were in the background or just kind of were shown mingling with people and didn't have like full confessionals. Nehemiah had a handful of confessionals. And I just feel like Nehemiah I've seen quite a bit. I just picked my top 5 men coming into this season. Of course, you got CT, Bananas, and Jordan. I mean, the resumes speak for themselves. Theo is in like every single promo. And it just feels like this dude is just going to be there. He's just going to be around the entire time. And then Corey has actually been growing on me. It wasn't really until the Super trailer, I was like, I feel like Corey is going to use the momentum that he had in USA 2, that I feel like he can do some big things here. I was worried about him coming onto the season because of what happened on season 37, but then he was getting in really good with USA 2. He had a really spot-on game, and I just feel like he's hitting his motion and stuff. So to me, I changed my thought process, and I put Corey up in my top 5 coming into this season. I just feel really, really solid with him. I mean, how can you not? Cara, Tori, and Laurel, these 5 are the physically strongest women/players on the season. I think that Tori has the best social game. I think Rachel is kind of flying under the radar. I think because she worked out with Tori and Josh, who are some of the most connected players in the game, I think on the low, Rachel is also one of the most connected players in this game. She also was featured heavily in the launch special, having the toast, telling Tina that she's not old. Stop telling yourself that. I just think that Rachel is going to be low-key one of the most connected players in this game via her strong relationship with Tori. Jenny is all over the trailers and promos and everything, and she's also one of the strongest. I feel like she's going to be, she has to be up in the top 5. Laurel has won against Cara, and probably could take on a lot of the players on this season in elimination. She just won in All-Stars 4, just won, even though that was like years ago. So I'm just going to put Laurel up in the top 5. Cara and Tori, I mean, I think enough said. That's all my slides. Hopefully you enjoyed my presentation. But that is, again, my final thoughts, my final overthinking, my final predictions and rankings and everything heading into this season. I think some of my top 5 is pretty low-hanging fruit, if you ask me. I mean, picking Cara, Jordan, CT, Bananas. I mean, come on now. Those are low-hanging fruit. I mean, they're always going to be up at the top. No matter what season they are, they're always going to be at the top. So maybe I did some low-hanging fruit, but I just went with what I have seen recently and the super trailers, official trailers, and everything. I just feel like I tried to like just stay true, and I think some of it was low-hanging fruit, but I think some of it is relatively interesting and data-driven as well. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.